Hey, coffee fans, I got something I'm really excited about. You see, one of my kids, Gideon, 14 years old. This young man, well, you'll see him in just a second. Matter of fact, come on over here, buddy. Dude is taller than me. See, he's not even standing up straight. And taller than me, playing football, and he's definitely going to be bigger than me, although I can run faster than him if I get a head start. But he just went on a mission trip to Nicaragua, and guess what he brought me? Some coffee. All right, buddy, you can run on if you want to. He didn't want to stay here for the whole video because, just staring at Dad, like trying to bulk up behind me and show you how much bigger he is. So he didn't want to stay here for the whole time, and he's working on some school stuff. But I'll tell you a little more about this. He went to Nicaragua, and not only did he bring me some coffee back. This is what I asked him to bring me. I said, if you bring me anything, just bring me a piece of paper money, because anytime my kids go to a foreign country, that's kind of the souvenir I want. It's just one of the neat paper monies, because they always have neat pictures on them. They're colorful. And I said, if you can, bring me some coffee. So not only did he find me some coffee to bring me from Nicaragua, but he bought it from the guy that works at the place. He brought me coffee from the coffee man. And so I've got some Cafe Las Flores. I have no idea if I pronounced that right. Cafe Las Flores, since 1926, Nicaragua. And the flavor is Grande Cosechas. Cosechas? All right. Feel free to tell me in the comments if I massacred the Spanish on that. But Grande Cosechas, gourmet coffee, 100% Arabica beans. That's awesome. And this is a medium roast. So it's not a light or dark. This is a medium. And it's got all the instructions and everything. And it's cool because everything on the packaging, at least on most of it, is in Spanish. Most of the cool coffees I get from other countries, Africa, Indonesia, places like that, they're never in their native tongue because, they're wanting to sell to the U.S. Well, he bought this in Nicaragua, so that's pretty cool. All right, so let me read you the story, and then I'll do another video and attach it to this one with the taste test. But the coffee of our land, Cafe Las Flores, is Nicaragua's finest coffee company. For over 3 generations, our family has taken pride in producing coffee that has been carefully cultivated from start to finish. Every step of our high-quality process assures the perfect development of our specialty beans into a cup of coffee with unique and recognizable taste. We invite you to visit Hacienda El Progreso, home of Cafe Las Flores, and enjoy a day on our working coffee farm. That would be such an amazing trip. I want to do that sometime. But he was just down there a couple weeks ago, so that's pretty awesome. And, of course, visit us online. I'll put the links in the description notes, and that way if you want to buy some of this, because I am a huge fan. If I coffee nerd about anything, and let's be honest, coffee fans, we all coffee nerd about certain things like sweeteners, creamers, temperatures, coffee makers, how it's made, we nerd out about everything. The thing I nerd out about most is I love single origin coffee. I'll drink a blend from time to time, or I'll drink some kind of fancy coffee from time to time, but I love single origin coffee. And this is single origin Nicaraguan Arabica beans. Exactly what I wanted. I'm so glad he brought this back. You know what? Neat thing is, I'm one of the only people that he brought a gift back to. And so that's pretty cool. He was really thinking about me, and I appreciate that. So I'll say it again. Thanks, Gideon, for bringing this back to me. And just keep watching, and the taste test, it'll be here in just a second. All right, so guess what? I did that video earlier telling you about the Nicaraguan single origin coffee that my son brought me back from his trip. And you know what? I'm here in the office now. As a matter of fact, let me turn the camera around real quick. So this is the podcast studio. So when you hear me on these shows and I'm talking about my walkout office and sometimes the neighborhood donkey who just go cruising right through the yard right there, or sometimes he'll stop and eat some, and there are always squirrels out there. And so on any of my videos, if you ever hear me, if it seems like I'm chasing a squirrel, or talking about squirrels, there are literally squirrels in the backyard. And so I got busy doing a podcast right here and also a Zoom meeting with somebody on a future thing we're working on. And I almost drank all the coffee before I did the video telling you about the coffee. So let me tell you, it tastes as magnificent as I expected it to. It's really good. And so in the description, in the notes there, I'll put a link on there to the farm where my son bought this down in Nicaragua. And it was pretty cool. It does taste really good. Let me just get another sip here and so I can... Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff. And you know what? Here's something I like to do. Some of y'all, we talked about earlier about nerding out on coffee and how we each do it in our own ways. I like to put hot honey in my coffee. I sweeten my coffee with honey. I don't use sugar. I don't use anything else to sweeten it. I put hot honey in there. And so it sweetens it a little bit, but it gives it a little bite. Just a little spice when it hits the throat. And I just like that. That's something I like to do with my coffee. And so I'll put a link in here also to I'll put a link in there to the hot honey I'm using right now. There's a lot of different ones out there, and you can actually experiment with different peppers. I believe the one that I have right now has Scotch bonnet pepper in it. And so it's honey infused with Scotch bonnet pepper. It's actually, you can make your own. If you don't want to buy hot honey from somebody else, you can just get some peppers, get a thing of honey, and just drop those peppers in there. And be careful, though. You might burn yourself up. So just be very careful with that. But like I said, this Nicaraguan coffee is pretty awesome. So glad my son went on this trip. One of the goals that I've always had for my kids in homeschool was that they go on a mission trip to a third world country before they graduate high school, because I want them they've grown up in first world America and always in a place that is very secure and safe, and they never wanted for anything. Not that we gave them everything, but they never wanted for anything. And I'm talking shelter, food, clothing, the basics. I want them to all go to a place where they help somebody else out that maybe doesn't have access to all those things, that maybe doesn't have everything that my kids had. Because let's be honest, here in first world America, we're pretty spoiled and entitled. And I'm not just talking about the current generation, I'm talking about all of us. And so I want my kids to see, the biggest thing I want them to realize is when they go to a place where people don't have everything, that those people don't realize they don't have everything. They're still happy. They may have very little, but they're still happy. And so my son went on this trip, and he was part of a construction team on this trip, and they built several houses while they were on here. I'm talking from the ground up. When they arrived, he was only there for a week, and they built several houses. So when they got there, they were actually mixing the concrete for the foundation. They were actually getting water and getting sand down the street, mixing it with the concrete mix, pouring the foundation, and then putting up the walls and the roof and the windows and everything else. And he said those people were so happy to have a house where before, like I said, they weren't unhappy. They didn't realize they didn't have all the things. But they were so happy because they went from a place with maybe no windows to just curtains hanging on the windows. No floor, just a dirt floor, just a wood stove in the corner or a fire pit in the corner. And they go from that to a house that this team showed up and built. Pretty amazing. And so my son came back with some pretty cool stories about there. And he still talks about some of the people that were there and that helped them build, some of the locals. And so it's something that I would always encourage you to do, because one of the things we don't realize all the time with coffee is that so many of us enjoy our coffee, but we don't think about where it comes from. And most coffee comes from places where people are paid almost nothing to harvest it and to process it. Then it gets here to America, and so many people will go to let's see, without saying names here, but they'll go to a store down the street where the logos are green and white and they have a mermaid on there, and it ends with bucks. And they'll pay $8 for a cup of fancy coffee drink and never once think about somebody that's paid a few pennies to harvest that coffee and to process it and to dry the beans and grind the beans and all the things. And so that's kind of what I wanted my kids to think about while we send them on these trips without their parents. I want them to experience this without the parents tagging along, so that they can see what it's like and actually see what it's like to help somebody. It's pretty cool. All right, so like I said, everything's in the notes as far as the coffee, the honey, all that kind of stuff. Hit me up, though, with any questions. Or, you know what? If you have any questions for my son about his trip, anything like that, just throw it in the comments. I'll get him to answer that for you.